Okay, so you remember last time we started with vorticity equations. Uh, so, we talked about what is planetary vorticity, which is basically Coriolis parameter f, and then we call it relative vorticity zeta. So the F basically means that how Earth is rotating. So that vorticity of the Earth is basically planetary vorticity F, whereas zeta relative vorticity is a tendency of rotation of any fluid flow. Okay, so, and which is defined by how V is changing in X and what is the gradient of U in Y. Okay, so that is what the relative vorticity is. And absolute vorticity means the total rotational tendency, which is zeta plus F. Okay, so the question is that why we are actually studying vorticity now. So the main purpose of studying vorticity is to advance our understanding to something which is called quasi geostrophy. So in terms of geostrophy, we know that it is basically a steady state situation, right? So the steady state means that means there is no time derivative. So it is stabilized, and then your V is U and U and V is balanced by the pressure gradient. So that is what the geostrophic balance is. Now you remember that in the geostrophic formulations, we found that it cannot have a convergence or divergence. That means it cannot have a W velocity. So W goes to zero unless we bring in a beta effect. You remember that? Anyone? Do you remember that those derivations that we have done? That using geostrophic equation, your W goes to zero.
Yes, sir. It's a little bit. Not.
Yeah. So we found that W is actually goes to zero if we assume geostrophy. So the problem is that we cannot. There are two issues with this. One is that there cannot be any W. That means there cannot be any convergence or divergence. Okay, and that is important for, say, for example, a depression or a cyclone. Okay. Um the second problem is that it doesn't have any time derivative. That means you cannot use this to find out how, say, for example, the current will evolve or the weather condition will evolve, okay, with time. So that we cannot do using this geostrophic balances. Okay, so that is why we need something more flexible. Okay, so that is called quasi geostrophic balance. So our intention of today's class is to go towards quasi geostrophic balance and how it is, how the equations become little different, and the approximation. So those things we'll try to find out. But before that, we need to know what is basically potential vorticities. So the potential vorticity is nothing but the absolute vorticity by h. Okay, so that means zeta plus f by the depth of the water column or depth of the fluid flow. So that is basically called potential vorticity. So let's see how it actually works. See, so what I've written is the rotation rate of a column of a fluid changes as the column is expand or contracted. Okay, uh, an example of this is, okay, so basically you have to feel like, okay, if there is a rotational flow, okay, a cyclone, for example, a rotational cyclone, okay, if the radius is more, then the flow rate will be less and the thickness will be less, small. If Whereas if it become narrow, that means if the radius becomes smaller, then the rotational rate will be much high and it will be much longer, elongated. So that's how it can change. If we change the radius, then the flow rate will change and the width of this height of the flow pattern or the circular motion will also change. So that is called contraction or expansion. Okay, so so basically you have to describe that kind of motion using vorticity. So So we have taken a ocean, okay, for example, and this is the bathymetry. So bathymetry means the depth of the depth. So the floor of the ocean, how they look like. So they are not flat. So they have some curvature. So that is denoted by bxy. So b is the curvature of the floor depend upon x and y. So it is changing in x and changing in y. And then there is the surface of the earth, sorry, surface of the ocean, which is denoted by h. So the total height of the surface of the ocean is h, which is basically function of x, y and z. Okay, so it is varying in x, y, and it has a height column. Not z, sorry, x, y and t, this is t. Okay, x, y and t, so it is varying in time. Is it clear? This bathymetry is not changing with time. That's why it is bxy. So it is only depend upon x and y. Whereas the surface of the ocean is a function of x and y, and also it can vary with time t. Okay, for example, you have wave or something, so it is changing all the time. So it is a function of t as well. Now we can start with the equation of continuity, which says del u del x plus del v del y plus del w del z equals to 0. So that is our equation of continuity. So if we integrate that equation of continuity from b to b plus h, so this is b and this is b plus h, is this height of the top of the surface of the ocean. And if you integrate, so basically del w by del z comes here, come here, because these two variable are not function of z anymore. Okay, so we are considering a barotropic motion. So you are basically integrating from b to b plus h, and that means what? That means this integration will become h, right? This will become z, and the b plus h minus b. So this will become capital H, whereas this one will be w at b plus h minus w at b. So that is what this right hand term will look like. Okay, so we have to find out what is w at b plus h and what is w at b, and then we can solve this equation. So what is w at b plus h? That means at here. So w at b plus h basically means that, okay, how this b plus h, that width of the water column, is changing with respect to time. So that means del b plus h by del t, plus if there is an advection of surface, okay, sea surface height in by x or by y. Okay, so this is an advection of sea surface height. So u del b plus h del x plus v del b plus h del y. So any advection, so the sea surface height can change because of the local rate of change of the b plus h, that means total height, and also it can change if there is an advection from x or from the y direction. Okay, so that is u b del b plus h, v del b plus h. And what about wb? Wb is basically because wb, so you cannot have del b by del t, because basically that is equals to 0, because b is not a function of time t, it is only a function of x and y. So this term is not there. You have u del b del x plus v del b del y. So your bottom can change because of the gradient. The w can change because of the gradient in your bathymetry. So if your bathymetry b is changing with respect to x and with respect to y, and water is flowing, so you can attain a w, or you can actually get a w because of the unevenness in the bottom topography. Okay, so that is what it is trying to say. And if you take wb plus h minus wb, what you get is this. So del b del t equals to 0. So del h by del t, and then u del b del x will be cancelled by u del b del x here. Similarly, v del b del y will be cancelled by v del b del y here. So you get u del h del x plus v del h del y, and this entire term can be written as dh by dt, total derivative. So from this equation 1, so this is basically capital H. So del u del x plus del v del y into capital H, and this term becomes dH by dt. So this can be written as del u by del x plus del v by del y plus 1 upon h dH by dt. So our continuity equation can be represented in this form. Okay, when we are assuming that we have a barotropic motion and we are basically interested in the height h of the sea surface. Is it clear? See, basically we want to find out the potential vorticity. Okay, we want to see how potential vorticity behaves in a fluid flow. So we want to derive that, and we'll find out that potential vorticity is basically conserved in a particular fluid flow. This is very important. So that means any rotational tendency, if there is a rotational tendency in a fluid flow, and as the fluid is moving from one place to the other place, it will try to retain that the momentum. Okay, the rotational momentum of the person. Okay, either by contracting or either by extracting. Okay, so that is what it will try to do as it moves, but it will not allow to change that potential vorticity. So that is what we are trying to find out. So in order to do that, first what we started with the equation of continuity, and we wanted to derive, we want to replace W by a term called H, which is basically surface of the height, because that is a known number to us. Okay, we can measure that H. So del U by del X, del U by del Y, del W by del Z, and we integrated from beta to from B to B plus H. So this is my water column. So from here to here, we wanted to integrate. So that's what we integrated here, and we found that this term is basically becoming dH by dt, and whereas this term is basically h. So our equation of continuity is can be rearranged in this form: del u by del x, del u by del y plus 1 upon h dH by dt equals to 0. So this is total derivative. So now let's look at how this potential vorticity will come. So this is our main equation. We have written it so many times. So du dt minus Fp equals to the pressure gradient term, and similarly dv dt plus Fe equals to the pressure gradient term. So here we have assumed that there is no friction. So that is only for a simplicity purpose. So, and we don't need, basically they don't play any role in this theory, but they will modify the flow if they exist. So anyways, that will make it more complex. So we have assumed that there is no friction here. Now, as usual, we want to find out what? We want to find out the vorticity, right? So earlier we used to take a derivative of this equation and this equation, and subtract such a way that we get del u del x plus del v del y to get W term. You remember, right? But this time we have to find out a negative sign here, because we are interested in a vorticity term. So vorticity is basically del v by del x and minus del u by del y. So from this equation we can always get that. So this is v, this is u. So what we have to do, we have to take x derivative of this, and we also have to take a y derivative of this. And if you just subtract, yeah, basically you have to subtract from this equation minus this equation, and then you have to multiply minus 1. So you get ddt. Okay, so take del v by del x. Okay, from here you have del v by del x minus del u by del y, because this is x derivative, this is y derivative you are doing, plus you get f here, and then you get del u del x plus del v del y plus an extra term beta. Can you tell from where this beta term comes? Ananga Prasad, can you tell how this beta came? Or Amit? How this beta term came here? So I am taking derivative this equation 6 with respect to y, and equation 7 with respect to x. Okay, and then we are subtracting. So del v by del x. Okay, take a x derivative of this equation first. Del v del x ddt of del v del x plus f del u del x. This will be here, and then in right hand side you have minus 1 upon rho del square p del x del y. Okay, and then you have equation 6. You take derivative with respect to y, so you get ddt del u del y, this one. So we are taking subtracting, right? Minus del u by del y, then minus, so minus will become plus f del v by del y, so plus f del v by del y. Okay, now because f is a function of y also, f is equals to f naught plus beta y, we are assuming it's a beta plane approximation. Okay, so that means f is linearly changing, okay, with a slope beta. We have done this before. We remember this. So del f by del y is nothing but beta. So beta v equals to, then again in the right hand side you will have del square p del x del y, and then these two terms will cancel each other. So that's why you have right hand side 0. So this beta is coming because derivative of f with respect to y. So that is denoted as beta. Okay. Beta equals to del f by del y. Rate of change of Coriolis parameter is actually denoted by beta here. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this term is basically nothing but our relative vorticity, del v by del x. Okay. This is our relative vorticity. And what is beta v? Beta v is, can be written as df by dt. So that means the rate of change of planetary vorticity, f rate of change of planetary vorticity with respect to time can be written as beta v. So this is what I have written here. So df by dt is equals to, if we just expand it, then it will become del f by del t. So f is not changing with respect to time. So this is basically 0 plus u del f by del x. F is not a function of x also. Coriolis force doesn't change in x direction. That means in latitudinal, longitudinal band. It always change in latitude. So this is also goes to 0 plus v del f by del y. Del f by del y is what? Beta. So this is beta v. So this beta v is nothing but df by dt. So we can actually write it here df by dt instead of beta v. So if we do that, we get d dt zeta plus f. Zeta is this one zeta, and f comes from beta v, zeta plus f plus yes. So basically now you have plus f del u by del x del u by del y equals to 0. But I have written f plus zeta del u plus del x plus del u by del y equals to 0. Can you tell me how? Because we are assuming this zeta, which is basically relative vorticity, is much smaller than f. So this zeta multiplied by del u del x plus del v del y is basically negligible compared to f multiplied del u by del x del v by del y. So this term can be written as f plus zeta del u by del x del v by del y. Okay, because relative vorticity is much smaller than your planetary vorticity. So from this equation, we can write d dt a plus, this is the same. Now del u by del x plus del u by del y, we found out earlier what is that? Del u by del x plus del u by del y is equals to minus 1 upon h dh by dt, right? From this equation. So we can replace it here. So we can replace it here. So we get this term. And then this is nothing but d dt zeta plus f by h equals to 0. So if you take derivative of this, so derivative of u by v is basically this. So derivative of first component, derivative of second, and this is what you get. Okay, so just try that. Take a derivative of this and you get this equation. Okay. So this is basically, you can assume that u multiplied by v. So derivative of u and v. So how it is to be done? So derivative of u, h will remain outside, plus this is fixed, and then you take derivative of this 1 upon h. So minus 1 upon h dh by dt equals to 0. So this is how you can actually write it, this one. So this is nothing but your potential vorticity. So potential vorticity means what? Zeta plus f by h is basically potential vorticity. And what we found is that the potential vorticity, rate of change of potential vorticity with respect to time, is basically equals to 0. That means the potential vorticity must be conserved along the fluid trajectory. So what it basically means, basically telling you that a fluid, suppose a fluid is moving and you have a rotational tendency in a fluid, but as the fluid is moving from one place to the other place, the rotational, that potential vorticity, that means zeta plus f by h, will not change. For example, if say for example you are taking a AD, so we frequently call it an AD in a ocean and atmosphere when there is a rotation, right? So suppose you have a AD at 30 degree north, and that AD is moving from 30 degree north to say 40 degree north. That means it is going towards the pole. So what will happen if it moves to the north? Which, and assuming that your zeta is not changing, so that means its rotation rate is not changing. Okay, velocity is not changing. So what will happen to the f if it moves to the north? So f will change. F will change, right? If it moves from 30 north to 40 north.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What will happen? F will decrease or increase if it moves from 30 degree north to 40 degree north. Then what will happen? F will increase or decrease. At equator, F is what?
Sir,
What is,
increase.
yeah, it will increase. So equator it is 0 and 1 at the pole, right? So it will increase as you go towards the polar region. So F will increase. So if a AD moves from 30 degree north to say 40 degree north, its F will increase. Now this entire quantity has to remain same. Now I'm assuming that zeta is not changing. So then what? How it can remain same if F increases?
H has to decrease.
Hmm? Say in this, my entire quantity has to same. Say for example, if the entire ratio is suppose 1, okay, now my f is increasing as it is going to the north, then what will happen to h? So I have to keep my ratio 1.
So H decreases.
H will increase. See, if f increases, then h has to increase, right? Say for example, this is
And
5 by 5, so f becomes 6, then h has to become 6, right?
yes,
So,
sir.
yeah, so if increases, that means if my AD is moving from south to north, then assuming zeta is not changing, then my H has to increase. That means the vertical length of the AD will increase as it moves to the north. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is also vice versa. For example, if my AD is moving and my depth of the AD is changing from say 50 meters to 30 meters, so H decreases. So if H decreases, then what will happen? That AD will move to the south. Okay, because it has to conserve this zeta plus F by H. Okay, so AD will move to the south. Another option is possible that okay, my f is changing. For example, my f is, the AD is moving from south to north, so my f increases, but this can also be balanced by zeta, so that means my zeta can decrease. Okay, so that means my rotational flow, the AD velocity will decrease in order to compensate. So that means zeta plus f by h will remain constant. Okay, so that is another possibility. So that also can be possible. So that is how a AD will conserve its potential vorticity. Okay, at any point of time as it moves along the flow. Okay, so that's how you will change. Sometime AD become larger, sometime it becomes smaller, but then in that case it may be rotating much faster. Okay, and it's also depth changes. Okay, in order to conserve the potential vorticity. That is what it happens. So basically, if we know the potential vorticity of the system, I can actually describe the fluid motion. Okay, so the how the it will move from one place to the other place, I can predict it using this conservation of potential vorticity. So that is why it is very strong. Another thing that see here in this expression, what I have done is that I have assumed zeta is much small than f. Okay, so that means my relative vorticity has to be much smaller than the planetary vorticity. So that means the if the rotation is very strong, for example, tornado. Okay, a tornado is the velocities, relative vorticity will be much stronger. So in that case, zeta is no longer much smaller than f, and then my this entire expression will not be valid. Okay, so this tornado may not conserve the potential vorticity in that case. Okay, so this is another. So these are the caveats. So because we are taking some approximations, so then the approximation means that uh, the flow should be justified based on that approximation. We cannot apply this everywhere. So that is one thing. Okay, so this is about potential vorticity. So now let's go to the quasi geostrophy. So the quasi geostrophy is what? As I said, the geostrophic motion is basically is a steady state motion. That means it cannot change with respect to time. And there is another problem is that it cannot have compression or expansion. Okay, that means it will not have any W velocity associated with this. Okay, these are the two drawbacks of geostrophic motion. So that means it is a very elegant theory, but it is of not much use when you want to say, for example, you want to predict weather system. So that's why the quasi geostrophy theory comes in. So wherein you can allow the time derivative to be there, and so that you can predict it in future. Okay, so this theory became very popular sometime in 1960s and 70s when you do not have HPCs like high performance computer in which you can solve those entire Navier-Stokes equations like we are doing in today's world. So today we don't use quasi geostrophy, but we actually solve those equations using computers. So that those kind of facilities were not there in 1960s or 50s. So the only way you can do this is to by approximating the Navier-Stokes equation to something which is more sensible, but at the same time it gives you a reasonable solution. Okay, not like geostrophic. Geostrophic is a very good condition, but it doesn't allow you to predict. Okay, because there is no t term here, so you cannot say that okay, if this is my state today, how it going to change tomorrow? We cannot do that using geostrophic equation because there is no t term available. So in order to remove that caveats, there is a theoretical quasi-geostrophic where you are allowing a t term. Okay, so we'll see that how it is done here. So it has to be done using some scale analysis. Okay, so the first thing that you have to, okay, so this is basically the same. Relative vorticity zeta is basically del v by del x, del v by del y, which is a u by L kind of a scale. And the planetary vorticity is f naught. And we have to assume that the Rossby number, you remember Rossby number? What is Rossby number? Okay. At the beginning of our classes, we actually explain what is Rossby number. Rossby number means when you take ratios of your time derivative term, that is del u by del t, with respect to the Coriolis term. Okay, so Coriolis was there in the right hand side and your del u by del t was the left hand side. If you during scale analysis, if you take the ratio between these two, okay, you get Rossby number. So Rossby number basically tells you that whether your inertial forcing is strong or the Coriolis force is strong. Which of this forcing is strong in your motion? Okay. So if the Rossby number is written here is equals to U by F naught L. Okay. If it is small means what? That means my Coriolis force is much stronger than my inertial force, right? Because it is a inertia by Coriolis. So if my Rossby number is small, then my Coriolis force is much stronger than my inertial force. And in those kind of situation, what happens is that my zeta by F is also less than 1. That means zeta is much smaller than F, which is the condition that we used for potential vorticity conservation. You remember? So the potential vorticity conservation is actually relying on the fact that the Rossby number has to be very smaller than 1. Okay. So this is the condition that needs to be true. And in fact, you can do it. So, for example, we have done it, some scaling analysis. U equals to, say, you can assume 1 meter per second, and L is what? The length scale is 1000 kilometers, so 10 to the power 5. So this is 10, this is 1, and this is 10 to the power 5. So this is 10 to the power minus 5, right? Zeta is 10 to the power minus 5. F we calculated earlier, it is around 10 to the power minus 4 second. Remember that? Any of you remember those things? So U is, we can assume the length scale of U is 1 meter per second, and the length scale of the flow L is 1000 kilometer. Okay, it's a pretty internal flow, and 100 kilometers. So 100 kilometer means 10 to the power minus 5, and U is basically 1, so this is 10 to the power minus 5. And F is 10 to the power minus 4. So the numerator is 10 to the power minus 5 and denominator is 10 to the power minus 4. So this equation holds, right? So your F naught is more than, at least 1 order of magnitude more than your zeta. So that means this equation holds true. That means you can assume that the conservation of potential vorticity will holds true in this kind of flow. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we are also assuming that okay, we are having a beta plane approximation. That means F is equals to F naught plus beta y. So this beta y is also very small than F naught. Okay, you can just calculate it. Beta y is very small. Beta is basically del F by del y. It's very small compared to F naught. Unless you are going towards the equator. So there it is not valid. Now, this is my equation of continuity again. Du by dt minus fu. So f is written as f naught plus beta y. So f naught v minus beta naught u v. And then right hand side you have the pressure gradient equation. And this is dv dt. The same, f is splitted f naught u beta naught y u is equals to minus del by 1 upon rho naught del p by del y. And this is the W equation, which is basically now hydrostatic approximation. So in this case, del P by del Z equals to minus rho G. Okay, this is not rho naught. Okay, why it is not rho naught? Who can tell why it is not rho naught? Tarini Prasad.
Sorry, sir.
Not remember why it is not rho naught? It is Bosniak's approximation. So it says that rho, the variation in rho is not very strong. For example, in a water column, the density changes from 1020 or 21 to 1035. Okay, kg per meter cube. So that means it is changing in a range of 14 or 15 kg per meter cube. And what is your mean? Rho mean is 1000 kg per meter cube or 1020 kg per meter cube in this case. So your rho naught is much bigger number compared to the change in rho. Okay. So that's why in all equations you can in fact write rho naught. It is a pretty good approximation. You don't have, in this way it become a constant instead of a variable. But it cannot be taken as rho naught when it is multiplied by a number such as g, because g is 10. Okay, so g is very big number. So when it is multiplied by a big number such as g, you cannot assume that rho is a constant. So in that case, you have to take rho is a variable. So that's why it is rho g. So this is called Boussinesq's approximation. Okay, so this is our three equations. We also assume certain more things. So we are assuming that my wind field or the velocity field can be decomposed in geostrophic and ageostrophic component. So what is geostrophic component? Geostrophic component means it is uh, obeying this law. So that means F naught Vg equals to 1 upon rho naught del Pg del x. Here G denoted by geostrophic. So that means my this Ug current is based on the pressure gradient. Okay, and my Vg current will also be based on the pressure gradient. So that is my geostrophic current or geostrophic wind. Now there is another perturbation to this wind. Okay, there is small perturbation to the winds which is written as ageostrophic. That means it is not following this law anymore. Okay, we need a small perturbation a UA or VA in order to bring in the W velocity. Okay, because we wanted to have a W velocity and then we also wanted to have some evolution, some time derivative. So that is only possible if there is a perturbation to my mean field. So my mean field is defined by the geostrophic flow, but on top of the geostrophic flow, there is some perturbation, okay, which is leading to cyclones, leading to cyclone or convection, okay, or the planetary waves. So there is some perturbation to the mean flow. So that is defined by ageostrophic. So that means it is not following geostrophic equations. So I'm assuming that my flow can be segregated into a geostrophic and ageostrophic component. Okay. I'm also assuming that my total derivative, or you can say that basically the advection is driven by the geostrophic flow, because my geostrophic flow is my mean flow. That means they are much stronger compared to my ageostrophic flow. So the most of the advection that takes place into the atmosphere or in the ocean is driven by the geostrophic motion itself, and ageostrophic component is much smaller. So my this total derivative is basically the geostrophic derivative. Okay, so that is what we assume. So my equation in 1 and 2 is what? This is my equation 1, U equation, and this is my equation 2, V equation. So I in putting in those equations, U equals to Ug plus Ua. Okay, nothing fancy. Now my total derivative, as I said, I am assuming that it is a geostrophic, so it is become del Ug by del T. Okay, so my first term is what? First term is du by dt. So that is del Ug by del T, del plus Ug. This is Ug, right? Del Ug by del X plus Vg del Ug by del Y. So this is nothing but dUg by dt. Okay, the first term. Minus what I have? F naught V. V is equals to Vg plus Va. So minus F naught So minus F naught Vg minus F naught Va. What else I have? Then I have minus beta naught Yv. Again V. So minus beta naught Y Vg minus beta naught Y Va. Okay, and this is the right hand side. So I'm assuming that the pressure term is also geostrophic, because the ageostrophy is only a perturbation. That means a small disturbance to the mean field. That means it will not contribute very strong pressure gradient also. So the pressure gradient is del Pg by del x. Now you see the F naught Vg minus F naught Vg equals to minus 1 upon rho naught del Pg by del x. This is geostrophic equation. F naught Vg equals to 1 upon rho naught del Pg del x. Right? This is geostrophic equation. So they goes to 0. Take it out from the equation. This one is small because your beta is very small, and then it is multiplied by a small perturbation Va. So these are the two small quantities multiplying each other. So this quantity is also small. So we can take it out. So basically we have this equation dg ug dt. This is the entire term, total derivative, minus F naught Va, this one, minus beta naught y Vg equals to 0. Okay, so what it is telling, it is basically the momentum equation of quasi geostrophic equation. Okay, so U momentum equation in a quasi geostrophic balance. It is telling what? It is telling that any change, the change of geostrophic velocity field, okay, is driven by Coriolis force due to the velocity as geostrophic velocity. So as soon as you have some velocity, you attend Coriolis force, right? So this Coriolis force is attending due to motion in ageostrophic field, and rate of change of Coriolis force multiplied by the geostrophic velocity itself. So any rate of change of geostrophic velocity field is driven by the Coriolis force due to ageostrophic velocity field, and the rate of change of Coriolis force multiplied by the geostrophic field itself. So this is what your quasi geostrophic equation, momentum equation for you. Okay, and this is the similar way you can do it for the V equation. Okay, and the V equation becomes same like this, but the sign are different. So equation in 4 and 5 states that the time rate of change of geostrophic wind or current is related to the Coriolis force due to geostrophic winds, due to ageostrophic winds, as I said. And the second point is the variation of the Coriolis force with latitude beta multiplied by the geostrophic winds. So this is the reason how your geostrophic winds are changing with respect to time. So in order to have a variation of geostrophic field, what you need? You need ageostrophic wind, and you also need the Coriolis force to change with respect to latitude. So that means beta. If these two exist, then you can have a change in the geostrophic field itself. Okay, so that is what it is trying to tell. Now, the another important point is that so basically now you have U equation and V equation, right? Two variables, but we can simplify it further by finding out finding out the potential vorticity equation, because potential vorticity is basically will represent both V and U, right? Vorticity means relative vorticity means del V by del X minus del U by del Y. So that means using a single variable, you can represent both V and U. So that is an advantage of vorticity equation. So the vorticity equation, if we define, then we can actually express both of them, and that can give you some more insight, physical insight of the flow. Okay, so my next intention is to find out what is the equation for potential vorticity. So the potential vorticity, rate of change of potential vorticity. So zeta is my potential vorticity, geostrophic potential vorticity. Okay, remember that. So this rate of change of geostrophic field, dg zeta g by dt is equals to d dt, and zeta is what? Is my relative vorticity of the geostrophic field. So del Vg by del x, del Ug by del y. So this is my relative vorticity, and I want to find out how it is changing with respect to time. Now I can swap the time derivative and x derivative, and similarly time derivative with respect to y derivative. So del x come out, and then this is dg Vg dt. Similarly, this is dg Ug dt. Okay. Now I have the expression for this dg vg dt and dg ug dt from this equation. So this is my dg ug dt and this is my dg vg dt. So if I replace using this term in this equation here and here, I get this. So if you just do some more mathematics, and then what you get is minus f naught del ua by del x del va by del y minus beta naught vg plus minus beta naught y del ug by del x del vg by del y. Now del ug by del x plus del vg by del y is basically 0 because it gives you del wg by del x. Now geostrophic equation, you know there is no w, right? So you cannot have a vertical velocity in pure geostrophic velocity field. So this term goes to 0. So then the relative vorticity, the rate of change of relative vorticity in geostrophic motion can be written as minus f naught del ua del x plus del va del y minus beta naught vg. And if you do a little bit more mathematics, this is basically del w by del z. So any convergence or divergence due to the agiostrophic motion is bringing a w velocity. Okay, this is from the equation of continuity. So this w is coming from z derivative from this equation, and everything remains same. So this is splitted here. So this is total derivative. This is the local derivative. So you can just rearrange it. Then you get del zeta g by del t equals to f naught del w by del z minus this term. So this is minus ug del zeta g, and this term can also be written as f del of f. Remember in the previous pages I showed you that this is basically total derivative of planetary vorticity f. So this can be written here. So you get basically three terms. So term A is change of geostrophic relative vorticity. B is what? B is the advection of no, I have written wrongly. This is B, this is okay. So here it is written opposite. So this is basically stretching and compressing in a vertical column of the air. So that means del W by del Z is telling you that okay, how it is stretching or compressing. If it is stretching, then W will be smaller. If it compressing, then W will become stronger. So this is my stretching and compressing, and this is the advection by the geostrophic flow. Okay, so the advection of absolute geostrophic velocity by the geostrophic flow. So this is my advection. So rate of change of geostrophic relative vorticity will change how the eddy field is contracting or expanding. That is my this term B, and this is because of the advection of the geostrophic vorticity itself by the geostrophic flow. So that is my this term. So that's how we can actually define how this what is the relative rate of change of relative vorticity, relative geostrophic vorticity in a quasi geostrophic formulation. Okay, so this is what this is the equation of quasi geostrophic vorticity equation. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I will circulate this to you and then just go over it, the equations, and derive it by yourself. Anyway, it is derived here, but do it again by yourself. Okay, and you let me know next time that if you find any difficulty in deriving them. Okay, remember this is C and this is B. Okay, so that I'll try to put a note here in the PDF. So this is how. So basically, we have taken few assumptions. Okay, so the first assumption is that my Reynolds number is small. Okay, so that means my relative vorticity is much smaller than my planetary vorticity. Okay, second thing we assume that the flow field is not very large. Okay, so that means when you have taken no here For example, U by FL, it means that my U cannot be very large. So you cannot assume it in a western boundary current or something where U can be very large. Okay, so it is for a interior motion. Similarly, it is true for a boundary layer. If it is a boundary layer, you cannot assume this because in that case, friction comes into picture. Okay, so this quasi-geostrophic equation will no longer be valid. Another point is that quasi-geostrophic equation cannot be applied close to equator because in that case f will be zero, right? If f is zero, then this Rossby number will become infinity. So you cannot have quasi-geostrophic approximation close to equator. So basically, it actually applies to a mid-latitude weather system earlier, and even it is used now. So this is a very strong formulation. Okay, basically you are reducing the entire three-dimensional equation to a single equation. Okay, very simple single equation. That is the beauty of this approximation. So basically, using this equation itself, you can define the entire flow. You do not need all these three equations: U equation, V equation, W equation, and all this. Basically, you need this only a single equation, and it actually gives you the result. And it is very so elegant. So using a simple approximation, you can describe the flow. That is the important or the elegant part of this derivation. So this is called quasi-geostrophic approximation. I hope this is a little clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I think it is this much today. In the next class, we'll see many of you not present today. So I don't know how they will do this. So let me stop.